Hello. Oh, that's ruined it. How annoying that it. Never mind. Um, we thought we'd got a fancy new sting figured out and everything, and then for some reason, it just straight up brought my cam right up in front and just ruined the entire aesthetic. Well done, StreamYard. Well done. Hi everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. We're here for the second week in a row, doing a Kickstarter ZineQuest stream. What is that? Well, at the moment, Kickstarter is running a big old open call, as it does every year, for TTRPG zine stuff, where lots of people run those campaigns, those crowdfunding efforts, and publish a lot of wonderful material. One of the people, in point of fact, doing that is ourselves. We are running a campaign at the moment for a zine called The Soft, which is for the Troika TTRPG system, where we are creating this vast pillow fort world of both squishiness and sort of gonzo cosmic horror. If you're interested in that, I'm sure we can get a link in chat for it. And also, you just search for The Soft TTRPG. You will find it there. As for what else we do, usually we run actual plays here on Twitch. Then they end up on YouTube. If you check down below, I won't do the full promo, but there's a whole bunch of links, typical kind of links that you might think of that you can access. Yeah. Last week's stream of this is now available over on YouTube as well. I think it's still hanging around Twitch too. So if you're interested, go look at that for wonderful games such as Blister Critters and The Details of Our Escape and other things that don't immediately jump into my head but are wonderful as well. Because this is involved looking at a lot of different Kickstarter campaigns. And at the moment I'm trying to juggle 12 different names in my head. And I struggle with one. So, there we go. Okay. Without any further ado, he said, doing the mental checklist, I've promoted all the things I should promo. Let's look at our first Kickstarter campaign this week, and it's going to be one of Steve's picks, and it is To Insanity and Beyond. Steve, take it away.
Sure. Yes, I've just noticed our nameplates aren't on for some reason. There we go.
That's good. There we go.
Yes. As regular viewers might know, I do have a bit of a soft spot for Mothership, despite not actually having played it yet. I've got the preview. Well, the preview one. I've also backed the recent-ish Kickstarter, which should be coming out fairly soon. And I am a big fan of. I guess you could sort of call it blue-collar space horror, sort of, space-based sci-fi, gritty, gnarly, thriller-type things. Bit of horror, bit of psychological shenanigans, that sort of stuff. So this project was an obvious pick, given that it is, yes, it's essentially focused on delivering that sort of material. It focuses on, there are three sort of mini adventures, I guess you could call them. They started off as being sort of pamphlet style adventures, but with the additional backing through the Kickstarter, it looks like they've grown into rather more fleshed out creations. And they are called Blue Infernum, Neon Midnight, and The God Number. And they cover various interesting scenarios. This is done by Bite-Sized Gaming, and quite a few people involved, it looks like. We've got Zach Allen, project lead, Zach Goins, Andrew Hindenburg, Gregory Harris are the writers, Jared Nielsen's a producer, and Spider Rooks is doing layout and graphic design. So yes, I think the of the three, the zine that is probably speaking to me the most is the last one, The God Number, which is, it involves a rogue AI, and what's not to like. I always a fan of sort of unknowable intelligence, wreaking havoc on anyone and everyone. in the area. So yeah, like the feel of it. I think it offers a fair amount of value. Always a fan of having material to to inspire and to dig through and that sort of stuff. So yes, I'm quite intrigued. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning. This was basically I had several games I was thinking about, including last week's stream, and obviously I picked my top 2. This was number 3, so this one just got shoved out by the other. I think just because I wanted a slight more variation in what we were doing.
Yeah, sure.
Not that this is varied, but you know what I mean. Like I wanted to have a bit more of a variety in what I was picking, and yeah, I mean it. First off, I mean it looks gorgeous. I love that they're kind of like musically themed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure to what extent it like follows that through, or it's just kind of like these are inspirations. I think like for a start, I love that the artist is credited on their logo as graphic artist and fist fighter. And I also love that the art is great, and I think it's non-controversial. I think that the first time I clicked on this and scrolled, I immediately actually thought it must be for Death in Space, because it looks a lot like that kind of Stockholm Cartel art punk style,
sure.
right? Which is fantastic. But obviously, Mothership and Death in Space are definitely cut from a very similar cloth. So that's not entirely surprising. But yeah, and just the production value just looks, yeah, crazy good. Can you imagine having a campaign page where you have little glitchy animations like this? This is the stuff of dreams. I
I mean, we could make things glitch if you want.
Let's just make everything glitch, including all the text.
Let's just stop the scope creep, everyone. Please keep it on.
Yeah.
No, I really like the design here. I think it's nice. I think there's a deliberate it has a deliberately ponderous quality. The page kind of evokes like 90s web design a little bit, and as much as you can within the context of a Kickstarter page, and I really like that. And yeah, it's exactly on the crossover Venn diagram between Death in Space and Mothership. And I think like when I was coming into the spooky space genre mood, I think Mothership is obviously I don't know, legacy is probably an impolite word, but has been around for a while longer than Death in Space, and definitely has the chops as well. But it's also kind of a bit more chunky. It feels kind of a lot more. There's more going on there, where Death in Space is very, very light. So I'm happy. I'm also just always happy to see people using the zine platform to put adventures out, because I think like I appreciate that format, because it's one I feel like I consume, because I love, like, someone's bound to run this eventually. It just looks nice. It looks like it's ready to go.
Yeah, and Mothership has been a lot of people have done zines and sort of add-ons for and through Mothership. So in a real varied, covering a lot of ground, not just your standard death in a rusting metal Hulk style adventure, but all sorts of things. So Mothership is quite a not generic, flexible setting. Death in Space is wonderfully focused and evocative, and there's a lot to love about both of them, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And you touched on something there, Chris. I think last week's stream was everything we did a system. I think they were.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it's nice to get a bit of, because one of mine is also not a system. So it's good to get a bit more variety there. But yeah, To Insanity and Beyond looks great. Evocative, art punk. That ticks Matt's boxes. Like that's all I need to know. Yeah, there we go. Okay, Chris, shall we pick up the first of yours, please, friend? And we're going to go with Fantastical Classes, Blobs versus Blades.
Yeah, so I wanted to I felt after last week that we had all of these wonderfully beautiful kind of complete and like would be a normal Kickstarter project, and I just wanted to kind of kind of these are zines. Like zines are supposed to be kind of there's supposed to be a smallness and a DIY-ness to it, and I think this one really does it. I also picked it because we need more positive slime representation in gaming in general, and having kind of a set of playable classes for slimes in amongst all the other stuff they're putting in there is close to my heart. Um, it's for it's four old school essentials. It's basically a set of extra classes. The Adept, the Blob, the Dancer, the Fury, the Ophidian, and the Sword Mage. All of these ones you should kind of like. Sword Mage is a kind of a classic play style, if not a classic class. And obviously all these other ones kind of have their own little kind of niche within the system. I really love the kind of comic art style here. I think it feels punk as fuck, and like not kind of highly processed, kind of beautifully executed punk, like just nice, good, close to the ground, and really kind of fun. Looks like I would have fun with this if I played Old School Essentials, which maybe we'll get around to one day.
It looks like art from an actual physical zine from like the late 90s, early 2000s for sure.
And that's what I really, because I love all these people putting in full systems, but I also really like the idea of, look, here is something more like the stuff I have on my bookshelf from kind of local creators, which are just like 3 stories about specific drains in Galway City, like that kind of ultra niche kind of area of zinology, and I really appreciate that this is living there. Yeah, so I hope we do get round to Old School Essentials at some point. I know it was on the poll, but we haven't. It hasn't quite.
It was on the poll. Do you want me to tell you the very bad this for non-regular viewers? By the way, we run a poll every year that goes out to our general audience, but also to our patrons about what systems we should play the following year. Do you want the very bad news about Old School Essentials on our poll, Chris?
Go on then.
I don't want to misrepresent this, Chris, so I'm going to get up the exact numbers.
Oh God!
Just so I'm completely right. Let me have a good look here. Yeah, so Old School Essentials. Yeah, it was equal last, and it was equal last with Dungeon Crawl Classics. So it's fair to say our existing audience doesn't want us to be playing retro games, but who knows? Maybe
that just means we can strike out for a new,
Exactly.
On the other hand, as well, to pull the curtain back a bit, it doesn't really matter what's on the poll, because you've really got like 3.5 GMs. You'll run what we have time to run.
Yeah. When something being unpopular been any reason we wouldn't do it?
We haven't done it. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, we pick like the top stuff off the poll, and we definitely do that. But as for everything else, it's a rough guide. But ultimately, we operate a kind of like one of those, like a character actor, one for the audience, one for us thing. And if someone wants to do it, they'll probably end up doing it. Yeah,
just
like one thing I really like.
No,
yeah, go on.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention as well, Joshua Burnett here. This is a one-man show. Art directing, layout, and all of the writing as well is, and that's that's true zine. That's ear to the ground stuff going on there. I love it.
Yeah. One thing I always really like in like old school type games is, unlike the like high fantasy stuff, I'm not the biggest high fantasy guy, but one thing I always really like is like if there's every kind of like monster or race or thing in the game, I have a soft spot in my heart for being able to play as anything within that. It's something that Land of Eam did recently, who also have like a blob type playable character thing. But I do like that kind of notion of, you could play a snake person, you can play a blob. Like I like that weird tangent thing, because that if these games are going to be like, weirdo, like gonzo popcorn fantasy, take it all away. Like, don't hold back. You know what I mean? Like,
Stopping just short of dinosaur erotica, apparently.
yeah. Like, I know, and
Are we
this is secondhand. What? It's
are we going to
just
provide
be clear,
context for?
Chris. This is because I turned down his dinosaur erotica pick from last week. To be clear, Chris, that was because of the erotica part, not because of the dinosaurs. And to be fair, didn't we look at it? We were like, well, maybe, and then we scrolled down and looked at some of the art, and we're like, yeah, we can't put this on the stream. So what was I going to say? I can't remember. I just remember someone. It's someone on our crew telling me about a D&D game they'd run or played in, where one of the characters was like a giant scorpion person or something, and it was like, you know, I'm not the biggest D&D guy, but yeah, if you're gonna do it all the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you used to be able to do that in 3.5 ed. I don't know if you could do it in 5th ed.
I think they were playing 3.5 ed. Okay then, let's go to the next one, which will be one of mine. And speaking of slightly different things, I want to bring you something that, rather than being a system, is just basically a location. This is Thrifty Trades of Fey, which took me an embarrassingly long time to realize was a pun.
Amazing.
Yes. A Fey thrift shop stacked to the seams with bizarre bargains and fantastical oddities. It's system free. It's made by Game Tea. And essentially it's kind of as you'd expect from the title and the billing. It is a shop location with a load of weird ass purchases you can make, of all available for trade. But rather than spending on it, you kind of bargain for it, right? So it has that kind of like fairy kind of thing to it. It's a 32-page zine. On paper stock, 64 items to delight and chill. So there's a lot of variety in there, and because it's system free and because it has that kind of like slightly like old but could be modern fairy tale aspect to it, I suspect you could use this in almost every setting and every system. Like, you could use it in a fantasy setting, you could use it in a modern setting. Sci-fi you might struggle, but horror settings, stuff like that, I'm sure it could be adapted for most of these things. The other thing to mention about it, other than the, again, gorgeous art, I am incapable of picking anything without gorgeous art, that it comes with, and let me make this, is this a standard thing? Let me just quickly check the tiers. Quickly check the tiers. Yeah, I think it's the higher tier. Comes with this delightful fortune teller mechanic to stock the thrift shop with a selection of items in your game. And who doesn't love a fortune teller, after all? Yeah, there's not too much else to say about that, other than just, again, the puns don't stop in an item called the porcelain horse. And I love anything with a quill of impertinence. But yeah, just really characterful, interesting adventure location. And this is the kind of thing I almost feel like, again, like Chris said with the stories, like zines that are just kind of more just settings or locations. I've got a lot of time for. It looks like there's a zine bundle as well thing offer they've got. I'm not going to go into the specifics of that, but just looking at like lovely bits of design here, you can already see in their other work. Yeah, that's it. That's
the little D20 holder that you just scroll past there. I'm presuming that's an STL file, or I don't know whether it's an actual physical thing you can. Free gift. Is it a? It's
it's digital. It's STL.
So yes, you can. You too can have a little cat D20 holder.
Wonderful. Yeah. Looks like the creators are AJ Haitley and Emily Pardo Billings. Yeah, it looks great. I think this looks fantastic, and something that's be so applicable and useful for like and reusable in so many settings, systems, etc., etc. Thoughts?
Absolutely cruising down the highway of art punk there. What fantastic layout, start to finish. There's not a even the Kickstarter page itself, let alone the assets that are using in the book, just absolutely start to finish and great stuff. It does make me feel a little bit sad that we don't really have at the minute anything on roster that's kind of improvisational enough for us to kind of slot something like this in. But absolutely gorgeous. What a piece of work.
I think if you pick the right like open system, you could base an entire one shot around this. You could like have like, you know, that this shop goes on and on and on, and you like bargain trade for something, and then off the back of that, like you have to kind of go on a quest within the shop to like fulfill the terms of the bargain, or kind of release yourself from those terms. You know what I mean? I think that could be. You could even do it as like you could do it as a light-hearted thing, a fantasy thing. You could do it as a dark thing. You could do this in Call of Cthulhu, no problem. Just maybe with less puns, you know, not picking the punnier stuff. But other than that, yeah. Any notion, Steve?
Yeah, it looks great. I particularly like the Murder of Crows item. I think basically you can hire a squad of assassin crows. Don't ask how they get the job done, but they will. And they only take a few shiny things as payment. So it sounds like a bargain. You know, that's what could go wrong with that.
Who among us can say that they would not do that? Yeah, Thrifty Trades of Fey. Very yeah, love this kind of thing. Slotting in easily, variable, endless replayability. Really, really good. Okay, let's move on to the second one of Steve's, which, if I'm getting it right, is this Bracing for the Storm, right?
Oh no, that's Chris's.
That's
Yeah,
Chris's.
that's
Oh no. Well, then let's do this. Let's do Chris's next one.
cool. So this is Pidge Sorensen, Bracing for the Storm. It seems to be from reading it over, it's a real kind of outsider, kind of hybrid game that doesn't really fit any of the. This isn't a TTRPG. It's not a board game. It's collaborative. It's very interesting, kind of foraging kind of core mechanic. Just in this kind of just in the calm before a storm sweeps into this kind of coastal kind of ambience that they've got going on here. And I just really appreciate just how far away from the other bits and pieces we've been looking at. This is not that it's probably not going to involve any dice getting rolled here. And I really do love this, the art that's involved here. This is Pidge Sorensen is the writer, and the artist is down here somewhere, who is, I want to name because they're fantastic. Yeah, Tara Willow from Buraloo in Australia, and absolutely fantastic little atmospheric work there that really kind of, I was just kind of reading over it, and then I kind of took a moment to kind of sit in the painting for a second, and was just like, oh, do you know what? This is absolutely gorgeous.
It looks like there's also another illustrator, Tallulah Cunningham.
Yeah, Tallulah Cunningham's on deck as well. But yeah, it looks absolutely great. It also looks it's GMless. It's has a solo mode as well. It's just really nice, weird outsider game that doesn't really kind of sit with. It's not a module for anything. It's not a huge, vast, expansive scope kind of single system. It's just it's a board game without a board, perhaps.
Yeah, it's got sort of. There's this weird thing within. For anyone out there who doesn't know, we used to do a lot of board game stuff, and on a different channel in a different life. And there was a genre of board game that came out for a while that bizarrely ended up being called either party games or parlor games, even though they were not. I mean, those both evoke kind of charades or something, right? And they were very much not that. Like a lot of hidden role traitor type games fell into that, but there was also more open stuff, like, and we've mentioned like things like Microscope on this on this channel before a number of times, but this definitely is a more kind of like constrained and focused experience than that, but it has that same feel to it of like you're like you are creating an experience more than you are perhaps telling a story, or that the story comes more like evocatively through from the group interaction with the central concepts of the game than it does from kind of like a narrated sense. And yeah, I agree. Again, we got to pick something with bad art, like because we just sound like, yeah, great art, yeah, it's good. You know what it really reminds me of? When I was a kid, I was super into dinosaurs, as we all were when we were kids. And this kind of illustrated landscapes, for some reason, like the palette chosen and the style really reminds me of a lot of the fucking gorgeous art in like the kind of dinosaur books and like historical books I had when I was a kid. There's something that I'm no art expert, so I can't define why or how that might be, but it does remind me of that kind of sort of 80s natural history illustration. And I think, having said that I remember, yeah, Tallulah Cunningham is a natural history and fantasy illustrator. So that tracks. That all tracks. Yeah, really interesting. It's one of those Kickstarters where I'm like, okay, I really want to know how this is going to work.
Yeah, it's interesting. It sounds almost. I mean, I don't want to. I sort of have to map everything to stuff I've played elsewhere. So I'm getting sort of survival game style feel from it. Like if there's an resources that you have to keep safe, that you can only collect in certain areas, that you can only carry so much of. That's quite an interesting. That's going to force a whole load of decisions. It sounds like, yes. So you can play using it's like a playing card based system apparently. So that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be fascinated to see how it sort of unfolds, and yes, what sort of stories people end up telling with it. It's yes, intriguing.
Scoot up to the top and the header image there for me for a second, Matt. I just wanted to because we were talking about what the art reminds me of, but I want to. There's a town in Donegal called Glencomb, and it's kind of quite well known as a kind of retirement village for artists. And there's two fairly well known artists have retired there. This older gentleman who paints nothing except the sea, and then this older lady who paints nothing except clouds. And this kind of this image kind of reminds me of what if they'd had a illicit child and not told anyone.
Sure.
There's a beautiful story in there somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely elements of like with the kind of conceit of it all set up. There's a definite kind of like eco disaster / climate vibe to it as well, that I really enjoy and appreciate. Because there are a few things more subtly terrifying these days than that kind of subtext. Yeah, fantastic. Bracing for the storm. Good pick. Okay, let's actually have Steve's this time now. And Steve's second pick of the stream is Beetle Knight.
Yes. I've played an awful lot of Hollow Knight recently. So, seeing the proud warrior beetle there, I couldn't not pick this. And yes, this system, it is sort of like a self-contained system. It is inspired by Hollow Knight. So it's a rich land. There's very little free space, so all of these sort of beetle factions are crammed together. Essentially, it's you play the part of some sort of insect, whether it's a bee or a pillbug or a. I think with the stretch goals that they've got maybe an additional 20 species to play. But yes, your honourable beetles trying to protect the common bug from all sorts of mysteries or calamities, and it's just charming. I do like systems that provide the opportunity to have like a change of scale or a change of perspective, and yes, it just does that off the bat. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, not to work in a plug to our own campaign again, but like that kind of notion of like either a sense of scale or altered scale is sort of partly what we're going for in the soft as well. Of kind of that this is something that you're used to being like a couple of meters square at most, and now it's an entire world, and that's something I really enjoy. Like the sense of worlds being a different size or a different place than perhaps they should, and like the macro into the micro and vice versa is something I really enjoy. This is a really random comment, but I really want to know where they got those dice from because I really like those patterned dice. But there anyway, this is made by Jim Hall.
Yeah.
By the look of it. Yeah. Play as your favorite arthropod. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Whimsical.
There are so many to choose from.
Whimsical again, lovely kind of stylized art. Like the art is perfect for what this is. Absolutely.
The art very much evokes the kind of Hollow Knight's kind of limited palettes, kind of scratchy feel as well, which I think is lovely. I really like this like additional this little adventure book, this Glimroot Glimmer.
I think it's
very much kind of
Glimmer,
has
but yeah,
Elm Glimmer has a really nice hand drawn feel. I mean, it's all hand drawn, but this one feels like there's a deliberateness to it as well.
Yes.
But another fantastic slice of art in, like you said, Matt. We've yet to find some bad art among this crop.
maybe that can be our goal for the final one of these in February. All bad art. I don't know if anyone's going to thank us for being featured on that. All bad art campaigns. But yeah, so they've got okay, so the world's called Litterfall. Yeah, Elmroot Glimmer, which is a point crawl, Eggfall, which is a tree crawl, and yeah, Beetle Knight solo rules. Resolution system is okay, so it looks like every roll is a kind of a contested roll, which is interesting. And that immediately brings to mind to me like sort of nature documentaries of stag beetles. You know what I mean? Like Goliath beetles like wrestling each other. I don't know, that just immediately occurred to me. I don't know if that's sort of the thing of it, but that's an interesting notion that everything's an opposed roll. Looks like the XP system is, or the progression system, I should say, is like loot based, rather than XP based, which is something I've seen quite a few games. Like it feels like that's a kind of in vogue thing to do at the moment. That kind of like different approach to progression.
Well, again, it's very similar to what goes on in Hollow Knight. You end up with different charms and whatnot that you can sort of interchange. So yes, the things that you find.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good stuff. Anyone else with anything for Beetle Knight?
Another beautiful slice of Kickstarter.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to our final one of the stream. It's my second one tonight. It is called The Occult Trail, a dark zine TTRPG set in 1911 in which you must hunt down beasts that spread blight in the swamps. Made by Marvin Cognac. And very obviously heavily inspired by video games like Hunt Showdown. Darkest Dungeon is also mentioned as a inspiration. This is also it isn't quite the same, but it does have some similarities with Bracing for the Storm, in that it feels like a very contained game. Again, it's like it feels almost like a board game without a game, and with role playing layered over it, right? You pick a beast randomly, choose a character, explore a 49 tile map, must gather clues to where the beast hides and find loot while doing so. Unique locations, items to collect, lesser monsters to fight. Yeah, it's that kind of, again, a board game TTRPG hybrid, right? And again, and I know, shockingly, it's got some really gorgeous art, like two-tone art, which I really, really appreciate. There's not like a huge amount of detail on here to dwell on, but I was just really stuck on the notion of, again, like that setting, which is used to such great degree in like Hunt Showdown. Time has obviously shown us that horror western is really fertile ground for bringing over a really evocative sense of monsteriness and weirdness and stuff like that. Yeah, and I always like the idea of getting a TTRPG that's so contained and kind of straightforward in its application, with like a contained system for moving around, that it's the kind of TTRPG you don't necessarily really have to prep or do all too much prep for. You can literally bring it out, put it on the table, especially if you've played it before, and just go, okay, let's play this. We randomly gen this. Here's our like board or our map, essentially, where we go and what we're doing. I really like that. And that combined with the setting and the art, good stuff.
Another one for you, Matt, in this kind of specific color palette range as well. Your second one this evening, in these kind of reds and pinks,
and kind of our third, including Insanity and Beyond as well.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or comments on these wonderful weird ass monsters and this wonderful weird ass setting?
It's hard to kind of. I'd love to have this in my hand and get a really good look at the art, because it seems just so detailed. And I think I believe it's a deliberate choice for this kind of boggy red, but it does hide the detail a bit. But these look really beautifully rendered as well.
It feels like one of those systems that's sort of quite good for maybe sort of introducing people to TTRPGs, in the sort of if you're starting off from a board game point of view, and that there are systems that get you started, those can quite quickly, it's less intimidating perhaps than starting off with a whole, full blown RPG off the bat. So yes, I'm quite fond of that sort of thing. I thought, is it Dungeon Quest? No, it was Talisman. So when I started playing TTRPGs again at my workplace, there was a group of people who we started off playing board games. It was a whole sort of gateway thing, and we were playing Talisman, and then the role playing kind of just grew out of it. There were certain characters who always got stuck behind certain things, and it just opened up. And then we started playing RPGs fully for a good few years. So yeah, I'm always keen on systems that sort of allow more people to perhaps join in.
Yeah,
Very
yeah, for sure.
on brand of us to go from hey, you've not played TTRPG before. May I interest you in a 1911 doomed bog witch experience, rather than are you playing elf or tiefling kind of situation.
But you know what? And like, this won't surprise anyone, given my frequent castigation of our hobby's obsession with D&D. I think that's legit a better approach. Like, something so characterful it can pull people along with it. Like, I think like going for a really open-ended thing often leads to like maybe a slight vagueness in sense about what TTRPGs can do. But you know, I've lost that war. I know that. Like, I'm fine with it. This gives me like slight vibes of a system from, I think, from Bully Pulpit that I've gone on about for years but never managed to run, called Carolina Deathcrawl, that has a kind of similar. It's Civil War rather than 1911, but it has that same like swamp horror sort of vibe to it. Albeit, I think it's more ghosts than monsters, but like, yeah, thumbs up, approved, all round. Okay, thanks for watching this, folks. Obviously, a big old quick plug for our own campaign at the end, the soft. Check it out; you might like it, especially if you like Troika and pillow forts, and world-sized pillow forts and scary things within them. If those are your general interests, you know what you put on your Tinder profile. That's showing my age. Your Hinge profile. Then you know, check it out. We as a whole typically don't do this kind of stream. We actually do actual plays, and we typically do about 3 of them a week. At the moment, we are running Warhammer on Mondays. Wednesdays is about to start up again next week with Blade Runner, and Thursdays is currently alternating between Wicked Ones and The Big Wet. Check those out if you're interested. We also run one-shots on a monthly basis. The next one is, in fact, this very weekend, Sunday, the 18th of February. We'll be playing Death in Space. And all 3 of us are actually on that. We have a much bigger crew, but by coincidence, all 3 of us are in that, as well as another reprobate called Alex. So yeah, tune in and check that out. Look below for all our links: Twitch, YouTube, Patreon, Discord, Twitter, Instagram, other things, merch store, blah, blah, blah. The usual stuff. You know what I mean. You've been on the internet before. Yeah, and we'll be back next week with another one of these. We're going to do one of these every week through ZineQuest February. Yeah, we hope you enjoyed it. And goodbye. Go back to your own lives. Bye. Bye.